There are some great debates in life one may never get to the bottom of. Toilet paper, over or under?
Shelly and I'm laughing because Shelly and I had that debate early into our dating. Early into dating.
You guys differed in opinions?
Well, no, we just did it differently at our homes. As our raised, like we had ours underneath, so the paper
always had
comes
under?
underneath.
Oh, you grew up an under house.
We
and
grew up
she grew up
with the
an
paper
over
coming
house.
underneath the roll, and then
Let me ask you this.
Shelly and her
What is
family,
it-
and probably most of America, had it coming over the top of the roll.
So what is it now in your house?
It's over the top. It's
Shelly
coming over the top.
wins. Shelly wins.
Well,
To the
yeah,
surprise
that's
of nobody.
Yeah. She can win that one. She can win that one.
The other great debate that happens a lot, particularly between couples at home, where do we keep our thermostat? But this is one you've told me before. That's not as big of a deal for you and Shelly. You guys are pretty temperature compatible.
Pretty much on the same page when it comes to that. Yeah, I guess if it's really, really hot, summertime, it's going to be at like 68. If it's
that's
really, really cold, we'll put it as high as 71. All that the house gets toasty.
It
at
does.
71.
When you turn that heat on, like all of a sudden you're like blasted out. You're like, oh my gosh,
I cannot
everything.
sleep in that.
I
know. For me, even when it's cold out, for me, I would say no warmer than 69 for the high.
Yeah, same.
I kind of like it 68, 69. That helps me sleep the best.
Right. Agreed. And fortunately, my husband and I are also temperature compatible, and I'm
That's
grateful.
good.
He and I both are grateful.
Of all the things you can potentially argue about, we'll be arguing about that too.
Right. But still, it's a great debate, particularly for women of a certain age. The hot flashes come in, and husbands, you just have to put on a fleece and tolerate, because we're in a whole different place. So get on board, everybody.
That is true.
Now, something else that could perhaps be a little bit of a debate, or maybe not, it's just not even a realized awareness, differencing opinions on where our financial thermostat sits, Abe. And I know you guys meet with married couples all the time at Abich Financial Services, and I'm sure you see a lot of conversations where people might have differing opinions when it comes to their market risk. One of the person in the marriage wants to stay riskier, the other one wants to pull back, create more security. So when you are looking at somebody's savings, their retirement plan, and their financial thermostat, so to speak, how do you figure out how they don't take too much risk, but also they don't want to do too little risk, because we got to defend against inflation in a 20, 30, 40-year retirement? How do you figure this out as people approach retirement's doorstep?
Yeah, you want a really good balance between growth and income, risk and safety. And, when it comes to maybe a married couple coming in, or partners that aren't on the same page with their risk tolerance, there usually is one spouse that can take on, or is more comfortable taking on more risk than maybe the other spouse. So, I'll ask, we'll have our prospective clients fill out a discovery workbook that lets us know everything about them, including the risk. And then it'll say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being all stock, 1 being all cash, what is a number you would give yourself? And so I'll have each, person in the household answer that, hey, Kevin, what's your risk tolerance? You might say an 8. Heather, what's your risk tolerance? You might say a 4. Oh, well, there's a difference there, right? And so for a lot of married couples, they'll agree on somewhere right in the middle, like if one is higher than the other, but a lot of times they're pretty close. So for that 8 and 4 example, as a married couple, most married couples look at all of their assets the same as one big pot. Then that married couple might come out as a 6, maybe 6.5, something like that, as we talk through it and find kind of a happy middle ground place that both people are comfortable with. Right. And sometimes there are age gaps and differences between husband and wife, and sometimes the husband's older or the wife's 10, 15 years younger. We've seen that happen, and the wife's going to work for 5 to 10 years longer than the husband. Maybe we can take on more risk in the wife's accounts. She's younger. She's going to work longer. Maybe we're a little more conservative with some of the husband's monies if he's got RMDs coming down, sooner down the pike than the wife. So all kinds of scenarios that we talk through to kind of determine and have a really good understanding as to the risk comfort and get that risk assessment done. Okay. So when it comes to the risk assessment, there are 2 things we want to understand. We want to understand objectively, like, what's the financial capacity for you to be able to take on this risk? What amount of money do you have saved? Do you have room to take on the risk you want to take on? Or should you actually be considering reducing the risk? Sometimes it's substantial risk reduction if someone's 90% stock, 100% stock. Sometimes we're increasing risk. Let's say someone comes to us with a ton of cash on the sidelines and they're like, well, I enjoy the safety. I like looking at, my bank account at this place and knowing I'm getting 3 to 3.5% and it's not, going to be lost in a market downturn. Well, there are a lot of pros and cons with having that type of bank cash too. So sometimes people are taking on too little risk and they actually need to increase risk on pieces of the portfolio. So we want to measure the objective financial capacity of a client to take on said risk and subjective capacity, right? What is your emotional tolerance for being up 20 or 30% or whatever the return is, right?
Yeah.
But also, if you're happy with that 10, 15, 20% return you might like out there, are you okay with your accounts or positions going down -10, -15, -20? That's very, very different than being up and having a great return on the upside. And at what point would you cry mercy and would you say, oh, -10? I never want to see that. -20? Never want to see anything below -20. Like, where is it that you would say, Abe, we need changes? Like, that's too much. I can't lose that amount or that percentage.
Right.
So we want to understand both the objective and subjective aspects of risk tolerance to establish a clear baseline and timeline as we head into retirement. And most people that we meet with, Heather, are taking on more risk than they need to at the point of retirement because they have the same stuff in their life savings that they had at 40, at 50. And they're like, Abe, I'm just letting it ride. I mean, the markets are up. I'm just letting it ride. That's how I got to 3 million, 5 million. But at the point of retirement, if we've hit our goal, if we have the dollar amount that we need to retire successfully, we got to change our thinking. We got to change the way we plan. We need to put in more protection and ways that we can preserve these assets into our later years. Number 2, we need to balance the ability to take on risk with willingness to do so. So someone coming in with, the more money that someone has coming in, if they've got $5 million or more dollars saved, well, they have the ability to take on more risk than maybe someone that's got $1 million or $2 million saved. But should they?
It depends on how much income they need. I mean, if they want to spend $25,000 a month, they might not.
So when a client's financial ability to take risk conflicts with their psychological comfort level, that's when we need to step in and say, look, you might be able to take on this risk. You've got more money than you'll ever go through over your lifetime, but doesn't make sense to do so. For what?
Right.
To what end? Like, why are you going to continue staying, at a 90-10 or a 100-0 where all of your money is in this position? Believe it or not, just even here in the last few weeks, we had a $10 million prospective client come in where 70%, $7 million of the $10 million was in 3 to 4 companies, with $4 million of the 10 in one company.
Wow.
This is your life savings, really? Like, that is extremely risky. It doesn't matter if it's Apple. It doesn't matter if it's Amazon. It doesn't matter if it's some of the biggest companies in the world. To have that amount of exposure, like to have it all in on black, in other words, or have it all in on red, your life savings, man. And so people still come in with portfolios and savings like that. That has to change. Otherwise, you're essentially just gambling with your life savings. So when a client's financial ability to take risk conflicts with their psychological comfort level, as advisors, we should be leaning in and saying, Heather, do you really want to do that? To what end? And make sure that you're taking on smart risk as you head into retirement. Okay. Number 3, we then, once we understand who the client is and the risk they're comfortable with and everything they want to accomplish with the money, we need to then tailor portfolio construction around their needs and goals. So using a risk profile, we then guide asset allocation and investment recommendations, ensuring that mix aligns with their long-term goals and strategy. And then finally, number 4, is we revisit the allocation and the entire plan regularly. And here at Abich Financial, that typically means with most of our clients 4 times a year minimum. Now, the phone lines and the doors are always open, and we encourage our clients to reach out anytime because sometimes life happens. People pass away, people receive inheritances, gain jobs, lose jobs, have, a great year in the market and have extra cash on the sidelines they can invest in bonuses, payouts, all kinds of things.
Well, and to
So
think about the first analogy we started with, you think about your thermostat. Do you turn your thermostat on air conditioning or heat and then a temperature and just leave it there
no
all year?
way, no
Of
way. You have
course you
different
don't.
seasons.
All year long, you're changing it. You're checking in on it. You stay within a certain range, but it's working. It's with you throughout how your life is changing, and
You
it's
have
the same
different
way with risk
seasons.
management. Yeah,
Different seasons from a temperature standpoint, different seasons from a financial standpoint, and you might
yeah,
be in a growth season heading into retire or up to a retirement, and then you're like, you know what, Abe, I want to, bounce this last check when I die.
sure.
If I die at 90, I want to make sure no money is left. So what does that mean? We need an aggressive spend down plan for you to enjoy your portfolio through the income that it can generate. So risk tolerance and a portfolio and a financial plan is not static. It's not going to be the same thing for your entire life because your life is going to change. Seasons are going to change. So it needs to be reviewed and adjusted frequently. We like 4 times a year. Our clients like 4 times a year. We have found, and our clients have found, that by reviewing the plan regularly, it gives our clients added confidence, added clarity, which they need and deserve as they continue to live out the retirement of their dreams.
Yeah, yeah.
We also want to make sure the plans keep up with major life changes. And when that happens, we need to be able to adjust the thermostat accordingly.
Right, right. Well, obviously, Abe, you are here checking the thermostat for everybody that you work with and for regularly, you and all of the advisors at Abich Financial Services. Abe actually took some time to put down his 20 years experience into a book, The Retirement Mountain, The 7 Steps to a Long-Lasting Retirement. I was thumbing through it as you were speaking because I was like, which chapter is it? It's a very quick chapter, the idea about protection, because you're able to spell it out pretty quickly. As you do, the great thing about this book is it's a simple read.
Easy
It's
to
a
read.
quick read,
Yeah.
which I know is a big goal for you because there's plenty of complicated financial books that
Yes.
we can read. This one,
Yes.
you simplified it, break it down for us.
Yeah, we take pride in kind of
Yeah.
taking complex issues, which finances and money is typically complex, and taking those complex issues and making them simple so that,
Yeah.
the average everyday American who may not be looking at CNBC and the stock market every day can understand what they have and the things they need to prepare for as they head into retirement.
Yep. Well, as I was saying, chapter 14, protect your life savings. It's step number 4 in that 7-step process.
There you go.
And again, Abe has written it down for you to read. And we have lots of ways for you to get a copy of the book for free. In fact, everybody who comes in to the office for an appointment can get a free copy of the book. We actually have a downloadable PDF and an e-version of the book for you to read. We can send that to you. I think there's actually links to download it. There's also links to Amazon, the audiobook, if you prefer listening to something while you're stuck in traffic in the DC metro area. That happens plenty. But just generally speaking, Abe wants to empower you with information. The entire team at Abich Financial Services does. So if your New Year's resolution is to start and finish 2026 strong by finally putting that plan in place, a great way to begin is by reading this book and then, of course, setting a time to meet with Abe and his team at Abich Financial. Let's begin that conversation. TheRetirementKey.com is where to go to do that, and also learn more about downloading the book or getting your free version. We also have links posted in the show notes. 2026, it's your year. Let's get to work. Visit us
Let's
at
do it.
TheRetirementKey.com.